Hello and welcome to another 23 Chairs video. In this video you're going to see me restoring this lovely arts and crafts movement rush seated chair. This probably dates from the late 19th century and as you can see the main issue is the rush is really badly damaged. It's kind of partly rotten away and needs completely replacing. So first of all, cut that out. This did feel kind of weird because when you're in the business of restoring furniture it feels very strange to be so destructive, but it had to come off, it can't be repaired. So next stage is to give it a sand down. Now I don't want to go too far with the sanding because it does have a lovely pattern and a really, really beautiful aged look, but it's kind of dirty and there's also some watermarks. It's obviously got splashed with water or got damp at some point, so there are some watermarks in the finish, so they just need to come off. So it's a really, really gentle light sanding and then a really fine paper. And as you can see, I do a little bit and then I'm just checking it, making sure I keep it consistent over the whole chair. So now, as always, I'm going to wash my chair, get rid of any last little bits of grime and dirt, and also with the dust from sanding. And now I'm applying my first coat of wax. The wood was really, really dry, very, very brittle. So it just needed a really good lathering in wax, basically just moisturising it. And this is the first coat of many. So another coat of wax here, and this is just going to be buffed to a really nice satin finish. It just gives the wood a really nice kind of warm glow, really enhances the patina, really enhances the grain without covering anything up. It's really, really beautiful as it is, so I don't want to change anything, it just needs that layer of protection. And now we're starting with replacing the rush seat. So because the seat is wider at the front, we have to start off by just filling in some of those front corners. So I'm just marking on the front bar the width of the back bar, and that means that I can fill that in to the right depth to make a square. That's basically what we're trying to do here, is create a square shape so that when the rush goes in, it goes in evenly and symmetrically. All these first pieces will need to be attached individually, so as you can see, I'm just stapling each piece into the inside rail so it's not visible on the end result. I'm also knocking the staples in with a little wedge of wood. The really important thing when doing this is just to keep those rushes as tight as possible, so just making sure that they don't slip at all once they're attached. I got some really good tips on how to do this successfully from a YouTube video, which I will link in the description. I've also got a book, and the rush actually came with its own instructions, so I'm kind of using a combination of those things to make sure I get it as good as possible. So as I said, the key to this is getting each piece of rush really tight. So after each one's been attached, I go round and just pull it at every corner as taut as possible before finishing off and stapling in the other end. I'm also using this small wedge of wood and a hammer to go round and push the rushes up against the corners. Again, this just helps keep it all really tight and make sure there's no gap in the finished product. Just checking there that I'm nearly getting there, the measurements are nearly the same. Getting a bit fiddly here, so I just needed an extra pair of hands for a second. And again, just using that wooden wedge to tighten up around all the corners, take out any gaps, make sure it's really square. And now I start filling in the rest of the chair. So it really is just a case of going over, under, and repeating that over and over again. But just making sure every time I go round, I go back, I tighten every corner, make sure they're all looking square. Then every 4 times I go round, I just stop, come back in with the hammer and the wedge, tighten up any gaps, make sure it's all looking really square. So I'm moving on to the second length of rush now, just taping that end I'm not using with some masking tape to stop it from getting tangled, and attaching the new piece with a reef knot, pulling that really tight, trimming it so it's nice and neat. Also making sure that when I weave that in, the knot is actually under the chair or within the chair so that you can't see it on the top. So now you can see I've got the bunch of rush in my hands scrunched up a little bit more. This is where it starts to get a bit more tricky as that hole in the middle gets smaller, fitting the rush bundle through. I want to use the longest lengths I possibly can so that I'm not making lots of joins. If I use shorter pieces, there'd be an awful lot more knots in there, which I do want to avoid, but getting that balance right between a big bundle to avoid knots and a small enough bundle that it'll actually fit through the hole gets more and more tricky as you go on. So now I'm well over halfway through. That's 2 bundles of rush completed. I'm going to stuff the seat. So this can be done with loose pieces of rush or cardboard. I'm going to go for the cardboard option. So at the moment I'm just making templates out of paper. I had this lovely floral print cardboard. As you know, if you've watched videos of mine before, I like even the bits you can't see to be pretty, but I did turn it upside down because I think you'll be able to see the white through the rush, so it's gone in upside down. So here is where I actually pulled the rush so tight I managed to snap it. The rush needs to be damp to work on it. It does make it a lot more flexible, but it also makes it a little bit more delicate, so I think maybe I was just a bit aggressive that time. You can see here that as the hole in the middle is getting smaller and smaller, it's getting more and more tricky to stuff that bundle through, which is why it got kind of tangled. I'm not going to make you watch me untangling it and struggling with it. It actually happened a couple of times, so we'll crack on. Just attaching the last piece here. It is a much smaller piece because I haven't got very much left to do, but the hole in the middle is just way too small now to try and fit a bundle through, so I'm having to thread the whole length through that tiny hole in the middle. this is the last piece going around all 4 sides, going in now. Because this is a rectangle, we've filled in the side pieces. Just checking my instructions to make sure I'm doing this last bit right. So now we just go backwards and forwards in a figure of 8 to finish off that middle piece. I'm using the wedge now just to make that hole in the middle a little bit bigger so I can fit the last few pieces in, make sure it's really filled very well at the sides. Just creating a really tight, secure knot underneath, and there we go, a functioning seat. So now, just to protect the rush, I'm going to apply a couple of coats of a clear matte varnish. I don't want to detract at all from the look of it because I really love the natural look rush. There's some colour variation which is really beautiful, and I don't want it to be kind of mad shiny and look too done because that just isn't the style of the chair. So went for a matte varnish. It's also watered down so that it can soak into the rush rather than leaving a kind of brittle, hard outer coating. Quick change of scene. It started raining, so I had to move indoors. When this coat's thoroughly dried, it'll get a second coat and then we'll be able to see the finished product. And here it is, the finished article, which I am so happy with. I just think the whole thing is absolutely beautiful. I would keep it if I could, but I can't. So it is on the Etsy shop now for sale. Just follow the link in the description to get to my Etsy shop. Also, if you have a rush seat of your own and you don't fancy tackling the restoration yourself, do get in touch because I also do commissions. Click the link or search 23 Chair Shop to find me on Etsy and follow me on Instagram for regular updates. And do subscribe for more videos. Thanks for watching.